So let's just go back, as I just was saying, let's talk about the time when you were in Austin first playing for the Longhorns.
Okay.
So kind of tell me your history with the Austin sports scene, starting with that, because I know you grew up in Alvin, you're a Texas boy, but
Yeah.
your relationship to Austin, was that really your first interaction with Austin living here when you played for the Longhorns?
So, believe it or not, I first got, accustomed to coming to Austin, going to football games at the University of Texas. When Fred Akers was coach, he had invited my dad on the sidelines a couple times. And so I grew up coming and just, became a Longhorn fan. And then when I had the opportunity to come play baseball for the Longhorns, obviously it was a dream school for me, and I came and was here 1 year, and probably the highlight of that year was when we had the Longhorns played the Texas Rangers in an exhibition game, and I got to pitch against my dad, which was super cool. And we had a packed house at the Dish. But the reality is you got to play to get better. And, what I noticed was after the fall semester, we had all these dudes show up from JUCO at the spring semester, and I'm like, hey, look, it's about winning here. And really decided I needed to go somewhere else to pursue my baseball career, get better, get innings. So I went to TCU and, ended up starting right away, and then got to come back to Austin, and, we ended up beating the Longhorns to win the Southwest Conference, which was kind of fun to be able to come back and do that. But I share that because the first time I ever thought about professional baseball in Austin was when the Phoenix Firebirds were trying to move here to become the Austin Swing. And Ray Benson and the group were behind it, and they were, that year at UT, they were talking about trying to build a stadium in East Austin, kind of over on Decker Lake. And it piqued my interest. I kind of filed it away and had not really been to a minor league game till I signed with the Hudson Valley Renegades in the New York Penn League in 1994 and went and played in my first minor league game and really fell in love with just professional baseball from the grassroots all the way to the big leagues.
Really interesting, because I never would have thought. So what was the year with the Phoenix Firebirds? Do you remember the year?
91, yeah.
So 91. So then let's fast forward years later.
Yep.
And not to when the Express were officially here, but the build up to it. So kind of tell me what was going on behind the scenes, because I want to get to the point where you talk about you going in and telling Aaron Hogan and Bucky, hey, we've got a minor league team coming to town. But there had to be a lot of things going on. I mean, you attached your father's nickname to it, so there's a lot going on.
Yeah, there's a lot of things. So I played in the minors for parts of really 2 seasons, and my third year got released out of spring training by the Rangers. And the Rangers said, hey, we'd really like for you to come work in the front office. We don't really think you're playing material anymore. But I started working up at the ballpark in Arlington, and one night I'm up there and just had kind of been thinking about, what do I want to do long-term for a career? Do I want to be, in the big league side? Do I want to be on the media side? What do I want to do? And just thought about when the Firebirds had tried to come to town and was like, why doesn't Austin have a team? And so I came home. I was married at the time, woke my wife up and said, hey, I think we should go to Austin and bring a team to town. And so I just set about finding out, how do I build a stadium? How do I find a team that I can buy? How do I move a team? And just really from that moment on, that was my total focus. And that was in 96, 97, somewhere in there. And by 98, I had my dad, Nolan Ryan, and his longtime friend and former Astros owner, Don Sanders, partnered with me to buy the Jackson Generals in Jackson, Mississippi, which happened to be a Houston Astros AA team. And we ran it there in 98 and 99 while we were working on building the stadium here. And originally visited with Kirk Watson, city of Austin. He was mayor at that time. And he just really was like, I don't think we can do a deal in downtown. And where I wanted to go was where the Palmer Event Center is, because that's where the Braves had their AA team throughout kind of the 40s, 50s, 60s, and had, a bunch of great players played for the Braves there. In fact, they won it in 1 year in the 60s, had Hank Aaron's brother was a member of the team and a bunch of other guys. And he just said, look, we're going to build this performing arts center, and it's just not going to happen. And so I said, where's the next place I'd be if I can't be right on Town Lake, and it was Round Rock because of the growth, because of the baseball history, because of Dell and all the corporate headquarters coming this way. And so sat down with Charlie Culpepper at the Chili's on I-35 and what is now, Toll Road 45, and said, hey, would you support baseball? And he said, yeah, we can use visitors tax, hotel motel tax. Without a doubt I would. And so we just shook on it and started the process, but we had a couple curveballs thrown at us along the way. One of them was called Initiative Referendum, where a group of citizens passed a petition to take the power away from the city council and put it to a vote of the people. And it only took 10% of the last election signatures. In the last election in Round Rock in 1998 in May had been a city council race that 2,000 people voted in. So it meant 200 signatures was all it took to get our deal blown up and put it to a vote in November of 98. And we won the vote overwhelmingly. And the rest is history as we started to work to break ground and build the Dell Diamond, which ended up opening in 2000.
Okay, so that I never knew the Braves.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really interesting.
Oh yeah, you should go look it up. The stadium was great, right on the water. Yeah.
Had no idea. That's wild.
Yeah, so one of the neat things that we did for the Braves, and I have to go back and look at the year. I've got the ring in my office, but the story of the Braves was the last year they were in existence, and you're going to get me the line here. I want to say it was 63 or 4, maybe 5, 63, 4, or 5. So 70, 80, 90. Okay, yeah. So it had been 50 years since they played. And the very last team won the Texas League, and they were promised rings. And then the owner sold the club and moved out of town and never gave the players their rings. And so we invited all the living players back here to Dell Diamond to honor them and play as the Austin Senators, which is what they were. And we presented all the living players with their championship rings 50 years later. And you've never seen a bunch of 70-year-olds break down and cry like that, but it was awesome to see. And so they ended up gifting me one, which was pretty cool, and really a neat memento of doing things the right way, loving the game, and taking care of those that have come before you.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that, because that 2000 season, or the first season, you win the Texas League.
Yep.
So it's like come full circle from the last time with those guys. So you win the Texas League, but I think more significantly is you not only won the Texas League, but you set attendance records. So once that happens, I mean, you see, I was there that first year, you see the ballpark filling up with people on a consistent basis. Mm-hmm. What is going through your head about the success of what you've done and what you've achieved just during the middle of that season?
It was validation that, we had an idea and people supported it. And I love the fact that we broke all the attendance records and had a great team. And here we are 26 years later and still are continually kind of up at the top of baseball. And I think it speaks to the quality of the market, the love of baseball in this market, the knowledge of baseball fans. But also that we've continued to give people good value, that we've put money back into the stadium, that we've really pushed on, what I wanted to do was become a rite of summer in Austin. People say, oh, you go to Austin during the summer, what do you do? Well, we go down to Barton Springs, we go out to Lake Travis, we go, hike, and then we go to the Round Rock Express game. And so really we've kind of cemented that we're one of the things that you do during summer. And you start getting old when you meet people all the time that were like, as a kid, I used to go to the Dell Diamond, and you're like, oh man, I thought you were my age, So it's pretty cool, and to see how many people have come through as bat boys that ended up being major league players or coaches or whatever. Time flies, and you look up, and it's been almost 3 decades.
Give me an example of a bat boy that.
John Danks, Jordan Danks were both bat boys for us.
Okay.
We've got a kid named Cooper Goen, who's now the head coach at he was with Oakland University, and now he's with the junior college, and he's working his way up. Chase Almendares, head coach at Houston Tilson. I mean, we've got them all over the place. Kids that, bat boying is probably the greatest life skill builder you can have. You learn hard work, you have fun, you become part of a team, you have a true responsibility to the players, and you just really learn to a great work ethic and how to have a good time and how people depend on you. And those guys that come out of that tend to do really, really well in life.
All right, so there was a period, though, where you weren't atop the CEO of the Express, where you went off to Houston. So kind of tell me about that venture for yourself, personally going down there and leaving this behind. I mean, this is kind of like your baby. This was your creation, your baby. So, but you're going to, I guess they weren't affiliated with the Astros at that point, right? When you left to go to Houston?
We were not, no. So, really the history was I started the Express in 2000. And we had a lot of success. Very rewarding to see people, loving what we're doing. Felt like we needed to make the move to AAA because the way baseball works, a bigger team, AAA team come into a AA market if they want to move in. Now they have to pay you a fee, but they can come in and move in. And so we didn't want to lose this market. So we said, let's just be proactive and go get a AAA team. So we bought the team that was in Edmonton. It was a A's AAA team. We reaffiliated it with the Astros, moved it here in 2005, and then opened up Whataburger Field, passed an election in Corpus Christi. And so in 2005, we had the Astros AAA and the Astros AA, and my dad was working for the Astros, and we ended up going to the World Series, which was incredible. And out of that came the ability for my dad to go to Arlington to be the CEO of the Texas Rangers. And that was really exciting and fun for him to be a part of. And then I was able to help him bring in Chuck Greenberg and some other people to kind of put that ownership group together. And then out of that, we affiliated our AAA team with the Rangers to be close to him. And then Astros stayed AA in Corpus Christi. And then in 2013, the Astros asked me to come be president of the Astros, and we sold Corpus Christi to the Astros. And so it was a very emotional time. I felt a real longing to have the opportunity to compete at the highest level. So that was an appeal to me. Had conversations with my dad about possibly going to the Rangers, but he was at the point where I think he was feeling like he was probably going to retire at some point, and ownership was going to want to be more active in what was happening. I wanted to take care of the city of Corpus Christi. They're a great Astros market. It's one of the smaller markets in AA baseball, and so the ability to sell that to the Astros, knowing they would keep that affiliation for a long time, made me feel really good. And so that move enabled me to do a lot of different things. But we were never going to sell Round Rock, and it was going to always be a piece of what we did. And then eventually I was able to move it over to being an Astros AAA club. Now, only for a couple of years that ended up getting blown up with COVID and everything else and the reaffiliation. But those Astros years were very, very fulfilling. It was kind of strange that the Express, still as Rangers, played the Astros AAA team that I put in Fresno until we moved it in the championship. But, baseball's a funny business and things happen. But we were able to win the World Series in 2017 and go back in 19. And so, the fact that, my family has been a part of 5 of the 6 World Series trips major league teams in Texas have made is pretty special. And, it's pretty cool to collect a bunch of rings for a lot of hard work over the years.
Yeah, so tell me about that, Reid, because I know your dad. I remember him playing specifically. I mean, obviously later as the Astros pitcher. And so the Astros had never won a World Series. Now you're the president of the Astros, and they win a World Series. I mean, it's got to be like this really gratifying moment to know that is such a big team, and your dad is really known for that team being so successful there. So what was that like for you?
So I think, the biggest accomplishments I've had in the game were, kind of opening Round Rock and winning that first year was amazing. Winning in Corpus Christi, in the early years of that is amazing because it's just, when you have a championship team, things come together. But nothing compares to having your childhood team that your dad played for, that you grew up bat boying for, that, is where you went to high school, and being a part of seeing that come together for a city that had known nothing but heartbreak, really, as far as championships go, and then throwing in Hurricane Harvey in the middle of it. I was the only executive in Houston. Everybody else was on the road or in California, and so myself and a couple other people really had to make a lot of decisions as it pertained to sort of the integrity of the game, the stadium, what's in the best interest of the team, and then being able to sort of be that light for everyone that was so devastated by that, the flooding, and give them something to cheer about. It probably will stay at the top of my professional accomplishments for the rest of my life.
So when you look back on the Austin Sportscape from when you had this idea to bring the Round Rock Express to where it is now, we have you guys love volleyball, just won the championship. We've got the Gamblers with JJ. We've got all these different things, and Austin FC is like the official major franchise in the city. What do you think when you see all of that and the growth, and knowing that you were really one of the first, besides the Austin Ice Bets, in this market, and now to see it now? I mean, what goes through your mind when you see the Austin sports market?
Well, I just think things grow off each other, and it's been great to have a small part of it. And I'm just a true believer that, pro sports raises all ships. Somebody that comes to our games are going to be open to going to, a Stars game, which are a ton of fun, or we'll go to an FC game, which is a ton of fun. And so I'm one of these people that I think the more sports fans we can grow, the Gamblers event is tremendous, that they may say, hey, that was fun, let's go give Round Rock a try, or let's go, give, the Stars a try. Because really, we're in the entertainment business, and we're competing for people's time, really more than we're competing for their money. They're going to spend their money on something, whether it's Netflix and staying at home, or DoorDash, or going out to eat, or putting in a sauna or a hot tub at their house. They're going to spend their money on something, but it's that time element that they're committing to give us 2.5, 3 hours of their time. We have to honor that, and we have to do a really good job and make it fun and make them feel like they truly got value out of that time and money commitment. And so if we do a good job with that, I think they're going to, go to other folks. And so it's really upon all of us to continue to raise that bar up of facilities, of experience, and, there'll be somebody else come and build in on top of what we've done at some point and continue the process.
Okay, that leads me to my last question. That's a perfect segue. Is both Bob Ballou and Aaron Hogan said there is a future big major market team here in town, whether it's MLB, NHL, NFL.
Yeah.
So you are the guy that brought baseball here. Is there any possibility that MLB has a team here? And if that were to happen, I mean, what would the experience? I mean, I'm just genuinely curious, because that seems like that's the next step. The MLS, no disrespect, is a major league team, but it's the soccer world. When we think about the big three, NFL, baseball, and basketball, do you see Austin having one of those teams in the future? Yeah,
I do. I've always felt that way. I mean, it's one of the reasons that we came here a long time ago, is I've always felt like this was going to be a major league sports market. So people ask all the time, do you think baseball will expand? I do think they'll expand one day. Baseball, every sport is different in the economics of the sport. The cost, the barrier to entry is the facility. And, baseball stadiums and NFL stadiums are much more expensive to build than arenas are. The economics of baseball is different from the NBA and the NHL. They don't share local media rights. And so, teams, there's a wide variety in have and have-nots. Each one of these major league sports have players' unions that also have a seat at the table. And so, do I think any of these will expand, or will Major League Baseball expand? I do. Is it going to happen in Rob Mansford's term? I don't know. I know he signaled that he'd like to see it happen. But signaling that and actually having enough owners that will vote to approve it are two different things. So I think they have a lot of structural issues that, this is a CBA year, and so we'll all kind of wait and see how that shakes out at the end of the season. But as far as Austin goes as a market, you look at California and you look at all of the major sports that are out there. You look at our state, our population, it's Florida, Texas, California. We're continuing to grow. People have an appetite for these kind of things. And so really it's going to come down to venue, timing of the league, and, is there going to be that opportunity? I think if it comes, there'll be people like myself that are in the market that will definitely, want to see good things happen for the Austin sports market.
Yeah, as someone who's lived here, I'm grateful for what you did. It's interesting to hear the backstory of the Braves, and then hearing how you just kind of came up with the idea. So thank you on behalf of the Austin community for doing that, because it like set sail on so much more that came into this market. So always good to talk with you. Thank you.
Yeah, no, appreciate you coming out, and we're honored that we kind of get to be the grandfathers of this sports market. But what I think the greatest challenge for all of us is every year you have to reinvent. And, my dad has a saying, you're only as good as your last pitch or your last hot dog, one or the other. And so we have to all continue to evolve, and you're seeing it happen, and it will continue to do that in the future.